Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, my guest is Dr. Jamar Montgomery. Hello, Dr. Montgomery.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We're going to have an awesome podcast. I just know it. You guys, I can't even read Dr. Montgomery's bio because we take up the entire hour. So I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to let Jamar go ahead with that stuff. But I'm going to read just a real quickie for you so you guys got just a little taste here about Jamar Montgomery. Even though I'm a child prodigy and life experience allows me to relate to people from all different walks of life, I've worked with former gang members to former presidents and have seen loss in a major way. More importantly, I've figured out different ways to win, and I'm always trying to help others win. From pissing off power people when I ran for U.S. Senate in 2020, to meeting with Kanye and President Trump in 2022, to speaking during the World Economic Forum in 2023 and 24. My life experiences has helped me communicate and be able to relate with others. And I just think that's awesome. And like I said, your bio is epic. So we'll just dig into that. But like I said, we're the What If You Could podcast. So that's all I've got. Do you have a what if you could moment for us, or what if you could thought, or what if you could question you'd like to share before we get started?
I guess you'll probably ask me the first. Do you want me to ask the question first, or do you want to ask the question first?
I'm going to ask you, what is
All
your
right,
what if you could moment? What is your what if you could? And then you can ask me. I got a bunch of 'em.
let's see. What if I could? Oh, let's see. What if I could empower all of those around me to see that their wildest dreams are possible?
I love
What if,
that. With your background, you could.
yeah, what if I could do that? What if I could do that? That would be, I know the world would be a much better place because much of what we experience is a result of the prisons that we create for ourselves in our minds, the prisons that we create for ourselves in the past traumas that we've experienced, the prisons that we create for ourselves of self doubt and self sabotage.
You obviously are not someone who thinks small or has outward doubts about yourself. You started super young as far as going after what you wanted. So why doesn't everyone else? Why don't people do that?
The thing is that at a point in my life, I did have a lot of doubts. I did have a lot of doubts. I doubted my capabilities. I doubted what my purpose in life was. I doubted my own advice. And that came from how life just beats up on you, right? It came up on how life had beaten up on me. And in spite of all of the accomplishments that I had, that I had made, I started college at 11, started full time at 14, graduated at 19 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, the youngest weapons systems engineer in the United States Navy's history, engineering degree, law degree, MBA, speaking all over the world. In spite of all of those accomplishments, there were doubts that were there. And I had to push through. I had to push through. It came down to how I really felt about myself. One of the problems that I see, and it was something that I had to face within myself, was that I defined the problem wrong. Right? Things would happen to me and I would start thinking like, oh, this happened to me and that's just how it is and there's nothing that I can do to change it. There's this sense of learned helplessness, especially when life just beats up on you. But we've defined what our problem is. I defined that life was unfair, life was hard, life was difficult, versus defining my life as, you know what? these things have happened to me, but what can I do to change the outcome? Right? The problem is, oh, I didn't exercise my genius in the best way that I should have. I didn't exercise my talents in the best way that I should have. I didn't utilize the resources that were available to me in the best way that I could have. Right now, what that does is that takes that situation that happens to me and now it puts me back in power. Because now I'm saying that despite my situation, I can do something about it. That right there was the major shift for me in terms of self sabotage, self doubt, right? And these are things that we have to actively and constantly face within ourselves because the more that you grow, the more that you experience things, the more that you learn about yourself. And if you're not learning about yourself in every experience, you're going to continue to repeat those same kinds of experiences. And what happens to a lot of people? They go through the same thing because they have not learned something about themselves and have not tapped into that divine power that God has put inside of them.
But for you, it kicked in on the outside, right? We don't know what's going on the inside at that time, but for you, it seemed to have kicked in early, dude. Not everyone starts to go into college or gets into college full time at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, graduates the way you do. Having these doubts and having beliefs, going from that, it didn't seem to really slow you down. Or was it just from the fear of pushing through the fear? I mean, feel the fear and do it anyways, right?
The thing is, that's a common misconception is that we think that because someone has achieved success, that there weren't problems that they had to deal with. Or even with me having a quote unquote head start, me starting early, right? And it's more so of me starting early than it is a head start, is that I was grateful, I was blessed enough to have parents who identified my talents already. I was blessed to have that. I was blessed to have parents who identified that and then continued to challenge me and put me in situations and environments where those things could come out and those things could blossom. Not everybody has that. I absolutely. Not everybody is blessed in that way. Still, those who have not necessarily been as blessed in that particular way still find a way of finding success in spite of not necessarily having those advantages, right? In spite of having those blessings. And it requires for them to, one, dig deep within themselves. Oftentimes, if you don't dig within yourself, regardless if you've come from a good background or you've come from a bad background, you will never reach your true potential because you have never dug deep within inside of yourself to identify what are the self-destructive habits and self-destructive thoughts and self-destructive mindsets that I might have and self-destructive behaviors. Though we don't really dig deep into those things. And once again, that's why you can see somebody who's been given everything in their life, or you would look at they might have grown up with a silver spoon, and it's now all of a sudden that spoon is gone. They never dug deep into seeing, okay, I have this particular advantage or great platform to start off with. How do I get myself to this higher level or to this next level? And any time that you're going to a higher or greater level, it requires something out of you. It requires a sacrifice from yourself, whether that's sacrificing your time, whether that's sacrificing relationships, whether that's sacrificing your old mindsets and old doubts. And those things become very comfortable for us because it's what we know.
Yeah. You see it a lot. And you said your define your principal beliefs, is that what to say? I tried to write it down. I can't even read my own writing because I was writing so fast. But that is because that's a great line. So define your principal beliefs, define your,
One of the things it's about having a well-defined why, a well-defined why for whatever it is that you do, and not being afraid to have that why, not being afraid of having that why change or morph or transform as you start to dig deeper. right? When you have that well-defined why, what you're really doing is you're tapping into that God-given purpose that was already inside of you. The challenge is how deep were you going to dig? Well, are you going to allow your experiences to help you bring that out? If I look at every experience or a quote unquote life situation, there is no bad experience. There's just life situations, right? If I look at my life situations as woe is me, there's nothing for me to learn. But if I look at my situations as, you know what, I really don't like this, this sucks, but I'm going to make the most out of this experience. What am I supposed to learn out of this experience? Because in every experience, I'm supposed to gain something, whether it's something materially, whether it's something mentally, whether it's something spiritually, that I'm supposed to gain something from this particular experience. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but it seems like your why, maybe not your why, but it seems like your thirst. Because I mean, like I said, I didn't read your bio. We're going to post it when we post the podcast so people can see all the different stuff that you jumped from. But you were always like reaching and searching and reaching and searching. You've covered so many different things. This is pretty awesome. And a lot of people like that. We've got this mindset where we're just always, that's why I do these podcasts. This isn't my job. I've got an actual real job. But I love meeting people like you. It's that thirst for wanting more, to learn more. But is there an absolute why you think? Do you think we're really here for some specific reason? But is there a one why you think we're here?
I believe each person has a one why for them being there,
Hmm.
right? One why. And the more simple that your why is, the closer that you're actually getting to it, right? You have to, that why is when everything is gone, when everything gets stripped away from you, what are you going to do? Some people, they work hard in their jobs. Oh, I'm doing this for my kids. And now, or everything I do is for my kids. And then their kids are gone. And then they have to find a new sense of purpose, a new sense of why. This is what I've known. And so what does that force you to do? I can either go into depression or I can dig deeper. Was that a layer of my why? Absolutely. But was that my ultimate why? Necessarily.
You? I can hear you. I just can't see you. There you are. I was the healthiest dude in the world for 59 years. And then all of a sudden, I got married to a new gal because my first wife passed 10 years ago. And I honestly think my new wife's trying to kill me because in the last 3 years, I went from cancer to all sorts of other weird shit. Now I had this weird heart thing. And I'm like, I must be here for something, right? I must be here for some reason because she's trying really hard to kill me. She hasn't done it yet. And so you start thinking about those things, right? You start thinking, all right, got great grandkids, I've got great kids, I got a good career. I love my life. I love learning. But now I'm starting to think there's got to be something, right? There's just got to be something. And when I was reading your bio from all the different things that you're doing, is there one of those things that just give you that juice that you just got to chase down that rabbit hole that fires you up?
It's seeing what I'm capable of, right? And one of the other things is that I'm probably secretly chasing is wanting to live up to the expectations that I wanting to live up to my own expectations. And for a while, it was living up to the expectations of those around me. And then when you realize that the people are going to expect different things out of you or it's going to change, that's devastating because you go from trying to please the people around you to now you really got to figure out like, oh, what is it that I really want to do? Really what brings me joy and then being unapologetic about it. Being unapologetic in that pursuit and that's challenging.
Yeah.
That's very challenging. And so for me, it has been about learning so much about myself and about the world that I'm able to connect with any and everybody. being able to experience that much where I'm able to connect with any and everybody.
What do you think? What's going on in the world? What? Because that's something I've always been really proud of myself, right? That's a goal I set for myself early because my parents were such a disaster. And I wanted to make sure my kids were not, were the type that could just get along with everybody, have a little bit of something from everybody, right? Or give a little bit of something to
Right.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
And they do that. People meet my sons, dude, you got great kids. I'm like, yeah, they had a great mom. But it seems that now people go out of their way to not be able to communicate with everybody. What's going on out there? You travel, you talk to a lot of different people.
It's selfishness and not it's selfishness and short-sightedness. It's selfishness and short-sightedness. The selfishness part is thinking that you're the only person in the world and that your needs are the most important needs to everybody. And the feeling that everybody else is responsible for fulfilling your needs, right? And then the short-sightedness of wanting everyone to fulfill those needs and realizing that those needs are going to change. And so, as those needs, as you require all these things from everybody else around you, yet when those needs change and you're not even grateful for those kinds of things, people will leave you alone. And what will happen? You'll find yourself in isolation. And then you'll find out, oh, I was depending on everybody else to fulfill this need. And now I'm the only one responsible for fulfilling my need. And I don't have any practice of doing that. And we see this on a interpersonal level, and in some ways we even see it on an international and global level in the fact that you the there's been this big rift between the United States and Canada. And it's hard to draw the line on who's being selfish. Is the United States as a country being selfish, or is Canada taking advantage of the United States, and vice versa, right? And then is the egos of the leaders getting in the way of doing what's best for the people of both countries, right? So you have this mismatch of all politics is local and all politics is personal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because it almost seems if you aren't on a certain side, that somehow you have this feeling and like I need to be in that gang or I need to be on that side or I'm not perceived in a certain way instead of just going with your gut. Like, what do you really feel, man? What do you really believe? What's your soul? What's in the fiber of you? What do you believe? Give all that shit up, right? Let's just all just get down to what we believe and just try to communicate it in a way where we can just find some common ground. But it's just like everyone's a battering ram. No one seems to want to just give up a little bit. Oh, I could see that point. Oh, no, don't say that. Don't even think you can give an inch or you're just going to get smacked down. And like you said, it's local, but it's global. It's just everything's on fire. It's just a bizarre world we're dealing with.
The thing is, if you don't know where you actually stand, then then everything becomes a fight, right? I,
Exactly.
if you, what we've seen at, particularly in the United States, is you got a thousand issues, a thousand hills that you can die on, right? Instead of focusing on the three hills that you can live and thrive on.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That's you nailed that. Yeah. And why don't we? What are we so afraid of? Why are we so afraid to commit to something that we believe in, but also be open to something that maybe is opposite of what we believe in, but that we can accept? It's like acceptance seems to be completely out the window. You either have to believe what I believe or you just aren't in my tribe anymore. Wait a minute. I accept you for all sorts of different I've seen all your scabs. I've seen all your boo-boos, right? And I accept you because I love you and I want you to accept me for the same. I don't know why you can't right now. It's bizarre. But I love what you said. That you just pick those three things, right?
It's human child nature. It's human child nature that your beliefs become your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's I can feel strongly about something. I can feel strongly about something. And the fact that you disagree with my beliefs doesn't mean that you disagree that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Right? And so we tie so much of I put it like this. When I was teaching my students, I said I was helping them to identify what their interests were. They're like, "Oh, I'm interested in this." I said, "No, your interests are anything that you're willing to show up at somebody's front door about and willing to go to jail about happily.
Wow.
Those are your real interests. Those are your real priorities because those are the things that you're willing to give up everything for because that's what you stand on. Now, some people might have some misguided priorities and misguided beliefs.
Yeah.
However, the fact is that if I know what those things are, then I know the areas in which I'm not going to budge at all. And then everything else I can,
Yeah.
right? Everything else it can. But guess what? If I never do that deep introspection into myself, right? I don't allow myself to really explore all sides of the issues. I don't allow myself to explore all sides of my own beliefs. I don't allow myself to explore somebody else's beliefs and, oh, okay, I can understand why this person thinks that way. How could you understand it? I'm not agreeing with it, but I can understand if you've had this particular background, if you had this kind of experience, it's a high likelihood. That's not even a feeling kind of thing. That's a logical, likely deduction of
Yeah.
what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And your actions are based upon how you perceive the world and also what you believe about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I love how you said the hill you're going to die on. And like I used this saying, I used to use it to my sons all the time. It's, dude, you're going to burn the boats, right? You were going to sail to that shore and you were going to burn your freaking boats. There isn't any going back on this. But if you choose, that's where you're going to choose to go. You got to understand there's no retreat from that, right? You're going all in on that thing. But I think nowadays, what I see so many times is that's not always a healthy thing for some small things, right? Like you said, the hill you're going to die on, but I can, just because that's where I'm going to burn my boats, or that's the hill I'm going to die on, right? I don't expect you to have to be there with me. You don't have to die on that same hill, right? It's totally
Yep.
cool if you don't want to die there with me. I
Yep.
respect you for that, right?
Yep.
But it just seems like we've just got this tribalness going that if you don't come die with me, then you're a hateful person or an evil person or you got some shit. But there's a little piece of everything that you can almost find common ground on, right? It seems to be.
Absolutely. And once again, is I'm responsible for what I do.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for what you do, right? I'm responsible for what I do. And it's respecting that you as an individual are a sovereign individual who can make their own decisions and make their own choices. I may not necessarily agree with all the choices that you make. I may not agree with I may agree with what you're doing, but don't agree with the reasoning for what you're doing. There's all different ways that I can cut it, but I have to respect that you're an individual and you made whatever decision. And even more, I can respect that you're willing to go there alone. You
Right.
have to respect that I have that same choice on whether or not I choose to go there with you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. You've done so much. You travel a lot. You've spoken to so many different people and stuff. And the world's moving really fast. Stuff's moving really fast. And I don't think people are prepared for how fast it's moving because we're so entrenched and we're so distracted, right? By so much minutia and so much bullshit that we're just not realizing how fast it's going. So when you're out there, you're traveling around the world, you're talking to all sorts of different people, you're lecturing, you're constantly absorbing knowledge and stuff. Where do you see, I know it's such a broad question, but where are we going? You know what I mean? Are we going to so fast to an area that we can easily hit the wall and shit could go sideways fast? Or are people going to start waking up and we're all going to start rowing together here? I know that's a vague, broad question, but things are moving fast, right? I don't think people are 100% ready for it. What are you seeing? Do you think people are going to start pulling together on this, or are we going to just fragment?
Let me put it this way. The only thing that forces you to move is discomfort.
Yeah.
And how uncomfortable does it need to be? And that will let you know the level of decadence and comfort and luxury that we've actually been living in. What do I see? On one hand, leaders worried, and you see some of the leaders worried. Why? Because they're closer to the actual decisions being made and them being responsible for the decisions being made. Whereas everyday people are not. We're far removed, and so our sphere of influence is much smaller. So, in terms of there's the top down approach and then there's the bottom up approach. The bottom up approach is people recognizing, you know what, I can depend on my neighbor much faster than I can depend on my political candidate. Something as simple as that. But if I allow the fact that, you know what, you voted for this person or we disagree on this particular issue to be, once again, the hill that I die on, there might have been a hill that all of us could have lived on, but you and I chose a hill that you can die on. And you might end up being on that hill alone. So I would say that we're headed to a place. Oh, this is going to sound very cynical. This is going to sound very cynical and very insensitive. Everybody's got a role, even if it's getting rolled over. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to get rolled over because they are focused on the wrong things.
Yep.
They
Yep.
are focused on the wrong things.
That's kind
And
of where I was going with that question is that I worry about my fellow human, right? I
yeah,
worry that they keep us so distracted, whoever they are, whatever, pick your distraction, right? They keep
hmm
you so distracted that a lot of people, like you said, their role is to get rolled over. And
yeah,
it's almost as if some people are accepting that. As if I just keep my head in the sand, I won't have to face what's going on because I don't think I can.
yeah. That's ooh. That's that knife cuts both ways. It cuts both ways in terms of putting your head down and not necessarily. Let's say it's not in the sand, but it's in the grindstone. Put my nose to the
Yeah.
grindstone
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
putting my nose in my
Sur-
head and
survival, right?
survival.
Survival.
And that is the thing. That is the thing. And I say to I was at the Black Male Agenda and Policy Summit in Atlanta earlier this year, and I was saying that if you do not know where your food, your shelter, and your clothing come from, what are the things that allow for you to feed, clothe, and shelter yourself? If you don't know where those things come from or what you have to protect in order to make those things, in order to provide those things, you're in trouble because everything else doesn't matter.
Okay.
Everything else doesn't matter.
When
Or,
you said discomfort earlier and survival now, right? And those two are wrapped up, right? Survival and discomfort because we get so comfortable. We have so many gifts here. We've got so many gifts. Things are so easy for us that the slightest thing gets us in discomfort, but people have no idea what real discomfort or survival is. So when you're talking to these guys and going, dude, you got to get down to the basics of survival and discomfort if you're going to make it through this stuff, right?
Why do you think Mark Zuckerberg took up jujitsu? Why do you
Right?
why do you think some of these CEOs participate in some of the most dangerous activities in the world? And you're like, why would you like, dude, you make millions of dollars. Why are you climbing mountains? It's a level of discomfort.
Hmm.
It's putting themselves voluntarily in discomfort so that they're like, okay, cool. When I experience these minor discomforts or minor disruptions in my luxury, I can put it all in perspective. Man, somebody that's sleeping out in the rainforest. And you're like, you do that for fun? People used to look at me crazy. They're like, you ran up that mountain? You climbed mountains? You scrambled up that mountain? Yes, I did. Why? Shoot, if I can voluntarily put myself in pain and in distress, then what can life put on me? Right? I haven't graduated to this level yet of the cold showers and the cold plunges. I haven't
Oh,
graduated. I'm like anybody who does that is a lunatic. You can't tell me any different, right? But Joe Rogan said this. He said, "I do my cold plunge in the morning, and that's the hardest part of my day."
yeah, I can see that. I think there's a lot of other ways to start my day wicked bad than that cold plunge. I
Well,
can't do it, man. But I
well,
get it. But I get the concept of it. But I also get that you seeing this shift in a lot of the wealthiest people in the world and a lot of the people who saw massive comfort. It's like you listen to a dude like Jim Carrey, the actor, right? And you get someone wants to be rich and famous. Sometimes I almost wish that they could get rich and famous so they could see what a destructive thing it is and how it's not what you think it is. And sometimes that's the best gift, right? Is that hardship. You get pulled back from that stuff because it's not what it seems to be, right? And so I think these guys, these trillionaires, billionaire guys have all these comforts, this ain't it, man. This isn't, I'm just a dude who invented something that blew up. I need to get back to the grounding. I need to get back to reality a little bit.
well, that's one perspective, right? That's one perspective, and to be able to have that perspective, you got to get there. The only person that can tell you the only person that can tell you about being an empty nester is somebody who had kids living in the house with them. The only person that can tell you that you would never think that you would miss changing diapers until you recognize that you'll never change a diaper ever again in your life, and that's the only time that you will never have that memory again.
Yeah.
So some of these experiences, and those are the good experiences, but you go after these particular things, but you don't recognize all that comes with it. You
Yeah.
don't, there's always the unexpected, the unknowns that come with it. And it's knowing that regardless of what you go through and what you experience, that you will be okay. But if you don't stay centered, if you don't, for me, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. If I did not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, who knows where I would be right now?
Yeah. That keeps you grounded. That's your grounding. Some people find it in all sorts of different ways, but I want to touch on something you talked about. What was that group that you said you were talking? The black.
The Black Male Agenda and Policy Summit.
Okay, reading your bio, you work with every spectrum of people, man. World Economic Forum, Africa, you all over the place. But what is going on, in your opinion, with what is going on with race? What's happening with race in America? I don't know about around the world. I think I barely can get my neighborhood, but what do you see? You're tuned into a lot of different communities, a lot of different groups, a lot of different economic levels, a lot of different thought people and systems and stuff. What's going on with race right now that you see?
There's a large portion of America that would like to believe that race doesn't exist. And when we put it like this, that racism doesn't necessarily exist. And then there's a portion of the population that would like to believe that racism is the cause of all their problems. And the racism is real.
Yeah.
This country has a racist history, has a racist past, all of it, right? Now, where did that racism come from? That racism came as a result of trying to keep your eyes off of classism. Oh, I'm going to separate the rich from the poor. Oh, but goodness gracious, I can't say that there's something different if the rich and poor both look the same. No, I got to tell the poor guy that the reason why he's poor is because black people are all these black people that I brought over here to work this country and to work the fields that work my fields and create my massive wealth. The real reason why you don't have a job is because of them. All of a sudden, they went from being slaves to now being the skilled worker labor force. Oh, of course I'm going to be mad at this particular person because I feel that they have an advantage. Oh, wait, did you forget that my folks came here on boats and were forced to work? So what were you doing while my ancestors were, when they first got here, had a 7-year life expectancy, regardless of how old that they were when they came to the shore? So if you came here as a baby during the first 50 to 100 years of slavery, if you came here as a baby or if you came here as a 30-year-old man or woman, your life expectancy was 7 years. That's how hard you were worked. In America,
How much does that affect? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
in America, we want to act like racism doesn't exist, and then at the same time, we want to act as if racism is the reason for all of our problems.
How is that? But so, how is that relatable as far as to some dude like me who lives in an area where there's a very small black community, there's a large Hispanic community, and a really large gay community, and a really large old white people community, right? How does that relate to it? How do we go, instead of just going, dude, let it go, man, that happened 400 years ago, to going, how do we walk through that so we can start getting some acceptance of that? Or is there ever going to be acceptance? I got Mexican dudes that hate gay guys. They just will not go into the gay community. They hate the gay guys. It's like, I don't know. How do we make this relatable in today's world?
I, the best lesson that you can give someone is a history lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
Best lesson.
Do they even teach history anymore? Do they even teach
That's
civics anymore? Do people even read anymore? Do people even get it anymore? I posted a meme, and it was something to the effect of there were two drinking fountains, right? And it said black and it said white. And I said, dude, this was like in my lifetime. This was not long ago. This wasn't 200 years ago where people couldn't drink out of the same drink fountain. This was like 50 years. This is my lifetime. When people go, it doesn't even comprehend in their brain how recent a lot of this stuff still was. If you're in the South, I would imagine it's a lot more easier to understand, right? But if you're out in Palm Springs, California, where everything's great, it's a whole different visual. It's a whole different mindset.
Well, one of the things that's important is that you have to achieve the same level of success. And what I mean by achieve the same level of success, it's easy to talk about racism sitting at the country club and giving somebody a history lesson because
Yeah.
you now can't. I'm not saying that racism kept me from doing what I'm doing right now. I'm saying that racism made it exceptionally difficult for me to get to this point. And in spite of that, I'm still here. Now imagine, and this is why, once again, asking questions and getting information about the person that you're dealing with is so important because, once again, the greatest lesson that you can give somebody is a history lesson. and then you use their own history to illustrate how their history was so much different than than yours. I'll give you an example. To find out that in 2023 that the GI Bill was opened up to all veterans, because the GI Bill originally wasn't open to black veterans.
I don't think anybody even knows that. I didn't know that.
The GI Bill was not open to black veterans, especially when it was first started. So all those families that came home from World War II, all the baby boomers, all of them that were able to build a level of wealth off of the GI Bill, those things were not available to black soldiers. They made it extremely difficult for black soldiers to take advantage of it.
Yeah,
So
I bet if you asked 1,000 people, I'd bet 999 of them would not know that. I never heard of that.
this is why the best lesson is a history lesson, so that you can sit there and say, yeah, and it's crazy that in spite of those things, and that black folks have fought in every war this country has ever had, have served with honor and distinction and valor in every war that this country has ever had, and we still are having a conversation on how we were dealt with, and that how we were unfairly dealt with, and the fact that there's Major Capers, who was a Vietnam veteran and Special Operations Hall of Honor, right? How he's supposed to have gotten a Medal of Honor years ago. How we don't hear about the valor of black soldiers, and it's not black history; it's American history. But why is it that when it has somebody black, that's taken out of the history books, or it's not included as history?
I don't know. No answer.
That's So
Right.
when you start speaking in those kinds of terms, you can say, why is that? Why is it that all of a sudden that it seems as if that now if you look at it, it seems like all of a sudden black folks just somewhat appeared, just showed up. I don't know where they came from. Wow, I didn't know black folks served in the military. Oh yeah, really? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Oh, why? I'm not surprised that you didn't know, because the army was segregated up until the 40s, and black folks have have served with honor, distinction, and valor in every war that the United States has ever had.
Yeah. And continue to do. They continue to do. My son's been in the Air Force for 12 years, and a large proportion of the people that he serves with are black guys and gals, and more men than women in what he's doing. But still, yeah, a big percentage will serve. But they serve in every area of our country. Every
Absolutely.
area of our country. I think. And what does that do for the young kids, the kids that you meet growing up in the black community that are like, I still want to play in the NBA, or I still want to be a rapper, I still want to be this. But then they see you, I'm an expert in navigation, I'm an expert in crypto, I got blockchain, I got AI, I've freaking met leaders of countries. Your options are a lot bigger if you just let them be, right?
Exposure. Exposure is it's so important, because particularly in the black community, we treat our rappers and entertainers like the thinkers and politicians, and then treat our thinkers and politicians like rappers and entertainers, right? And what really I got in trouble with my judge when I was practicing law as a public defender, and I was a juvenile public defender, so I was working with kids. I got in trouble with my judge because I had posted a picture on my Instagram with my rifle and my bulletproof vest on. And she was like, "You're out here on Instagram, you're a lawyer, and you're out here on Instagram with your rifle and with your bulletproof vest, and what is all that about?" And I said, "Your Honor, when you're getting ready to violate my kids' probation because they're on Instagram with guns and things like that, you utilize that as evidence against them." I said, "Now, which one?" And they're following people in their community that don't have a law degree, that don't have an engineering degree, that don't have an MBA. So if this is what they're already interested in, you're not going to stop a little boy from being interested in guns and things like that. You're not. So if I'm not able to reach them, if I'm able to reach them just by that, and they are willing to open up to me because they see, oh, you understand me. Now, I'm the only black male, I'm the only black man that, as I'm the only black man public defender that's working with these kids. When I'm
And,
in
and and what's the percentage of the kids that are in these programs, right? So you're the
80% of
only black dude, and it's 70%. What is it?
80% of my clients were black.
So then they got 90% of their public defenders, of the people who are supposed to help them, are white, that have no idea from where they come. They had no idea of how they live. They
We
have no idea what their world's like. How can they relate to them, right?
we had there was another black lady that was a public defender. She was a juvenile public defender as well, right? But there were no, and then two white gentlemen, I think another white lady, right? Great people that I worked with, right? Great people that I worked with. One of the best experiences I've ever had, and what I'm extremely thankful for. In that experience, I was different. I was the youngest that was there, right? I was the youngest attorney that was there. And then I was able to connect with the children in a way that they had never seen before. They'd never seen before. And this I used to eat lunch with these kids. The kids that the courthouse was directly next to the jail, to the detention facility. And so you could go through the back way, and court personnel were allowed to eat at lunch in the cafeteria, in the detention cafeteria. And so I would eat lunch there every day. And it got to the point that as soon as I finished the staff workers would come up to me and say, oh, Attorney Montgomery, one of the children want to speak to you. And I'm like, who wants to speak to me? Not even my client. Every day. I'm dealing with kids who either some people who the lowest offenses was, oh, they were sexting their boyfriend or sexting their girlfriend, to kids that had attempted murder. Right? And being able to connect with the kids that had gun cases, that because I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of gun cases and a lot of a lot of burglaries. They were breaking in houses or breaking in cars. Gun cases and burglaries and fights. Right? I'm able to connect with these kids, and my judge, she didn't necessarily like my response, but it was, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah. And what does it say that these kids don't feel like they have anyone to go to, that they're searching you out because they just don't feel like they have anyone else to go to? So, where are their role models? Where are the people that they can talk to? Where are the people they can confide in? Where are the people that can show them, hey, there's another way? Where are the people who can inspire them? Where are they? They obviously don't have them. If they got to come to you at lunch break, tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, man, you got to go talk to these kids. There's just, who's there for these kids then?
That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge, and it's a human challenge in this term. How much of my resources am I going to spend on people that I consider a lost cause versus those that are already on the right track? That's that's the human calculus. That's the human calculus. And unfortunately, we haven't made the level of investment in the children and in the families and in communities, especially black communities, especially in socioeconomic disadvantaged communities. We just haven't made the level of investment and given them the level of exposure that is necessary to show them that there is a different way.
And the foster system's a complete disaster. It's not even a money issue. We throw more money at this stuff than anybody on the planet. It's not even a money issue. But I think it comes back to what you said very early about selfishness. And I don't want to call anybody out. I don't want to say everybody should volunteer. Hell, I'm not volunteer every day in the projects or in homeless shelters or senior centers. I could do a lot more. But it really does come down to we just want to get our own.
Yeah.
And again, we were talking about how the world moves so fast. It's like, Shit, you go to bed and you wake up and all of a sudden a week's gone by. It's what the heck? And I think it's priorities. What do we really want? How much more crap do we need? How much more of this do we need? How many people can we save, right? And who makes that call?
That's a, if you as an individual are working your hardest to provide the best for yourself and for your family, that leaves little space for you to be able to focus on other things. And we're hoping that the government focuses on the people who aren't able to do for themselves. We hope. It, it's, it's, you're dealt with, you have to deal with the realities of life, of, look, yes, there are people being selfish. You know what? Can I blame them for being selfish? They decided that this was a particular standard that they wanted to provide, and they made sure that they were dead set focused on that. And what am I striving for? What am I striving for? It's one thing to need help. It's another thing to now look at somebody that may have had a worse, been dealt a worse hand than you in life, and you watch them succeed. Ooh,
Yeah.
yes, I didn't have my priorities together. And one of the reasons people look at rich people and they're like, rich, wealthy people, and they're like, why don't they want to pay taxes? Why don't they like paying taxes? And I get why they don't want to pay taxes, because you don't get to, if you're going to give money away, you want to at least put it into the places where you feel that it's important, where you want to put impact in. And that's what you're seeing with a lot of this philanthropy, is that I instead of paying it in taxes, I'd much rather it go to the causes that I want it to go to. And so there's that obligation of what are the gifts and talents and things that you're able to give to others to be able to help, so that they can be in a better situation. But you cannot say that there's nothing that you're interested in that you cannot give back in another way. And it's a biblical principle: give and it shall come back unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over. Like, those are biblical principles. So how do I give? How do I give and help?
Which one of the things I always told my kids, when they were little is, listen, when you're feeling down or you wanted something and you didn't get it or you're feeling bad, go help somebody
Yeah.
that's less fortunate. Trust me, you'll feel better. In a selfish way, you're making yourself feel better by helping someone else, but you're also helping someone else because trust me, you will always find someone that's less fortunate than you. And that's one of the best ways to heal it. Just go help somebody else. And I got to just do a shift because you've been so great with your time. I want to be respectful of your time. But in kind of a vein of what we've been talking about a little bit, is I just got to pick your brain on AI because I think it does affect so much of what we've talked about in essence, right? It's going to change things so dramatically for us. And I'm afraid the disadvantage may continue to be even more disadvantaged. It's like California is very soon going to be only the very wealthy and only the very disadvantaged. There'll be no middle class left in California if it goes along the route it's going. And other states may have that same fate. But what do you see AI doing to that? What do you see AI on a social level, on an economic level? What is that going to do to us, you think? Big question. Sorry.
AI is doing it right now. It's doing it right now. And AI has its limitations, but with its limitations, it has its own limitations in and of itself, but it also gives you incredible leverage if you know how to use it, right? Just the simple fact of, not just, I'll answer the question like this. How crazy was it to prevent children from utilizing calculators after they had already mastered the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
Right.
Right? Imagine how much farther you are you familiar with the TI-83 calculator, graphing calculator?
Yes, I tried to use one once and I hurt myself, so I stay away.
Now imagine if kids were taught how to utilize that calculator in high school, how much farther they would be in college, right? The tools that would be like right now, not allowing children to utilize AI in their school assignments would be akin to not allowing somebody to use the computer to type up their report. And so it's requiring for us, it's requiring for us to rethink what's actually important. Is doing the work, is doing the busy work as important as learning how to be an effective communicator? Because Lord knows if you aren't an effective communicator, you're not gonna get something good out of your Chat GPT or DeepSeek or Claude or Chat Black GPT. You're not gonna get good outputs as a result. So now, what are the skills that the children really need to be learning? Oh, you really need to be learning great communication skills. And the leaders of tomorrow will be those with great communication skills. That has been since the beginning of time. It hasn't been those who have necessarily been able to utilize, create the technology. The people who create the technology, if they were able to communicate its uses to as many people as possible, communicate the benefits, those were the people who became successful. So it's understanding what's truly important. If you're not utilizing AI right now, if your kids aren't learning about AI right now, they're behind. They're behind. How is AI changing things? AI is changing things where now not only does it do natural language processing, which means that it can understand what I'm saying, right? And get me what I want. So when I go to Wendy's and I order, I'm not speaking to another person now. I'm speaking to a large language model that's able to understand what it is that I'm saying, put it in context of what I actually want, and then put that order out to whoever's cooking my food. And pretty soon it's going to be robots doing that. But guess what happens? Somebody still has to program the large language model. Somebody still has to program the robots. Somebody still has to service and maintenance the robots. So it's now looking about, okay, when Henry Ford was developing because he didn't develop the car, he just developed the assembly process that made it easy for us to build cars, right? For us to have the cars. When he was going to the assembly line and we figured out the assembly line with building a car, it became less profitable for you to now make horseshoes. And instead of making horseshoes, you now maybe I need to start learning how to make spokes. Maybe I need to start learning how to make other things that are made out of metal, right? So it requires this shift in thinking. Okay, all right, it's going to replace this job, but what's going to be needed? The job, it got destroyed, but it actually it didn't really get destroyed. It got transformed because with new solutions come new problems. So what are the problems that are there right now? Oh, large language models really don't understand context as well as we would like for it to. Oh, okay. So the skills of yesterday may be irrelevant tomorrow. So I need to start thinking about tomorrow today so that I will be relevant tomorrow. All I'm saying is that we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our future selves, to put ourselves in the best position possible. Okay, if you think that ChatGPT is going to get rid of, or not ChatGPT, but AI is going to get rid of a lot of jobs, that means that there's going to be a greater divide between rich and poor.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Ooh, which side are you going to be on?
Mhm.
Are you going to
Look at
be?
Yeah, look at that's California right now. California's in the process of making a welfare state where you are either a ward of the state or you are very wealthy. That's it. When they took the working wage, they took minimum wage up to a standard where the businesses couldn't afford it. They said, "We'll do exactly what you said. We're going to have AI take your drive up order. You're going to have a kiosk inside the store. You're going to have a robot making your burger because how hard is it to make a McDonald's cheeseburger, right? It's not very difficult. And you'll have one person in there that's a programmer and one person in there to make sure they resupply chain. So you go from a restaurant with 10 workers to a restaurant with 2 workers. So now, if you own the McDonald's, you might be okay. But if you were one of the people that got downsized, what are you going to do?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And that's the thing is being in that kind of situation and still thinking in abundance. Because there's plenty of stuff all around you. It's just whether or not I'm able to recognize it. That is a challenge. That is a challenge. It's going to take away something. Yes, it's going to take away something, but it's also going to create a thing. What are those things that are going to be created? That's where your mind has to be thinking. From going from a consumer to being a producer. And mind you, we are well trained and conditioned in the United States of America to be consumers.
Man, yeah, that's it. It's funny because what you said about the Henry Ford and the cars and go from making the horseshoes to making spokes, and you think about all the innovation throughout time, and the ones who embraced it prospered. The ones who fought it
Yeah.
maybe didn't do as well, right? So it's like you said, so the mindset can't be, oh shit, what's going to happen when I get downsized or this type of career is gone or something like that. The mindset needs to be what opportunities are available to me with this new world that's coming at us. One of the other things you said, which is so brilliant, is communicators. You look at people like Thomas Edison. He may not have been the greatest inventor of all the time, but he was one of the greatest communicators and salesmen of all time of the stuff that he did. Tesla, not so much. Tesla was not a great communicator or salesman of his craft. So you have to be able to communicate. You have to. AI is not going to communicate for all of us on everything. It's just not gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. We can go down that rabbit hole forever, but I don't know, Doc. I asked you already, but I'm just going to ask it again in a little bit of a different way. Um, you've seen so many things. I don't know if you're an expert of everything or really good at a bunch of stuff or you just, like to just know a lot of different stuff. But
I love learning.
obviously, man, your bio is awesome. But what would you say to folks moving forward? I mean, you're talking to all these people, or you're meeting all these people, you're taking in a lot of different knowledge. What would you say to people moving forward? There's a lot of scared people, right? People are just fearful. I think fear is probably some of the biggest problems we have right now in our country. People are just fearful, right? So, what kind of advice would you give people moving forward as far as what coming down the pipe? And what are the hopeful signs that you see coming down the pipe?
Hmm. I would say act in the manner that brings the desired result.
Mhm.
If you are scared, then you need to act in every way that brings you safety.
Mhm.
If you are hungry, you need to act in a way that cures that hunger. I know that's not the right word, but I'm drawing a blank right now, right? If you're worried about being poor, you need to do everything.
I can hear you, but you just disappeared.
There we go. I was giving myself a chance to be able to finish the thought while the video is still on. Um,
Sorry.
if you're poor, then you need to do everything in your power to make sure that you at least provide for yourself economically. So the thing that you say that you are, then you need to be laser focused on solving that problem. Otherwise, that's not really what it is. Otherwise, it's not where it really is. Okay. What do I see? What do I see? Where do I see things going? Where do I see things going? Ooh, you ask, and I, is it cynical or is it I'm calling it how I see it? And maybe calling it how I see it might be a little cynical. We could all be winners. We could all be winners. We have to decide what we're going to win at. We can all be winners. We just have to decide what we're going to win at. We, I'm excited. I'm excited for what the future holds. I'm excited because I've positioned myself to I positioned myself to bet on myself and bet on what I believe is coming in the future. I've positioned myself for that. But before I was able to position myself like that, I had to go through some deep, dark places within myself to be able to see the light. I had to go through the depression. I had to go through the self-doubt. I had to go through you. There is no substitute for going through that process of finding your purpose. And mind you, when you find your purpose, when you start searching for it, you will find that you are the only person uniquely qualified to do that specific thing. And whatever that thing is, will bring you wealth and bring you abundance like you never imagined. There are people you can't tell me you if you would have said 10 years ago that people would make millions off of selling feet pictures, you would have looked at me like I was crazy. You would have laughed me out of the room. You would say, "Where did this man get his doctorate from?" You would look at me crazy. Oh, and what do we have with OnlyFans? If you would have told me, if I would have told you years ago that there would become millionaires from selling pet rocks,
Yeah. It's always it comes back. I think it was Zig Ziglar, I think, who said it is find a need and fill it. It's pretty basic. It's just find a need that fills it. Give the world the best that you have, and the best will come back to you. There's always going to be a niche somewhere. There's always going to be a need that needs to be filled somewhere. There's always going to be a next level of something that you can find and do. There's another place you could serve. There's always more, but you're not going to find it if you're staring at your belly button saying, "Oh, it's me." You're
yeah,
just not gonna find it, right? But it's out there, like you said, and looking inside is a good thing, as long as you're not looking inside to beat yourself up. But if you're looking
yeah,
inside for that source, you're gonna find it.
yeah. Loving yourself and having compassion and patience for yourself because you can only give what's inside. You can only give what's inside. You might think that you're patient with other people and you're not because you're not even patient with yourself. You might think that you're speaking kind to others, but you don't even speak kind to yourself.
Yeah,
So whatever it is that you're giving isn't really kindness.
it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard to love yourself, and
it is.
especially in the negative world. It's so easy to tear ourselves down because we're so good at tearing other people down. And just comes down to that fear of not being enough, not
Mm.
being open, not being true to who you are, not being true to the world, not exposing yourself. We all hide behind these crazy social medias and all this stuff. It doesn't mean anything. But, Doctor, I'll tell you what, this has been wonderful. I had no idea what rabbit holes we were going to go down. But with you, it's awesome. People like you just inspire me. And I know you inspire a lot of people. I know you give a lot. I know you share a lot. I'm just super grateful for your time. I had no idea where we were going. We ended up some places I had no idea how we got there. But I'm grateful for your time. Everybody, listen, this is Dr. Jamar Montgomery. Um, I'm going to post his bio on the podcast so you could get a feel for who this man is and what he's done. It would have taken me an hour, like I said, an hour to read all his accomplishments and things like that. So Jamar, thank you so much, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on and what you're doing. And let me just ask you some all just oddball questions going down some rabbit holes. You were great, man. You just never blinked once.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure.
I love it. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and post this for everybody on the upcoming episode of the What If You Could podcast. Again, this is Dr. Jamar Montgomery. And where can we find Jamar? Where can we find you? We'll post them on there, but just so you can let people know, how do we find you and what you got cooking?
drjamarmontgomery.com. DRJAMAR Montgomery. MONTGOMERY.com. Dr. Jamar Montgomery on YouTube. Dr. Jamar Montgomery on TikTok. Dr. Jamar Montgomery on Instagram. Dr. Jamar Montgomery on Truth Social. Dr. Jamar Montgomery on Twitch. But I'm most
Facebook?
active.
Facebook too?
No, Jamar Montgomery on Facebook. As a matter of fact, I got locked out of my Facebook account, but I'll get back in. But I'm most active on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Awesome. Awesome. I love your logo back there. I love the seal. You probably will be president of the United States one of these days. You got my vote. You
Yeah,
got my vote right there. That's
you
it.
see the different in this right here. I modified the seal for those are broken chains.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Because that would be the olive leaf, the olive branch, right? So you've got the warheads on one side, you got the olive branch on the other side, but instead it's broken chains. And we need more people not only breaking chains and breaking stigmas, but we need more people talking. We need more people talking. Like you said, the best thing you can give someone is a history lesson. Because if you just don't know history, you are definitely going to repeat it, and it's just going to be another shit show, and it's just a cycle just doesn't end. It's crazy, man. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. So I know you're doing your part. I'll do my part. So everybody, you know where to find him. He's everywhere. All right. Jamar, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you.